In a building in the Idaho desert, a small reactor kills all 3 men who run it. It takes 4 milliseconds. One of them is pinned to the ceiling by a plug of its own shielding. Officially, the cause is never fully explained. This is the only reactor accident in American history to kill the men who ran it. Rewind. The National Reactor Testing Station, a stretch of high desert about 40 miles west of Idaho Falls. Here the Army is testing a machine called SL-1, a stationary low-power reactor. A small prototype, meant one day to power radar stations and outposts in the far north, where fuel is hard to carry. It is a boiling water reactor. 3 megawatts of heat. Its fuel is uranium enriched past 90%, weapons grade. A reactor is held in check by its control rods. Push them in, the chain reaction chokes. Draw them out, the power climbs. A boiling reactor can run away fast. On this same desert, engineers had proven it, deliberately driving one until it tore itself apart. And SL-1 carried a flaw built into its core. One central rod was so powerful that pulling that single rod far enough could take the reactor critical, even with every other rod still in place. And the rods were known to stick. Tuesday, the 3rd of January, 1961. The reactor has been shut down over the holidays. On the night shift, 3 military technicians. The job is routine, reconnect the drive mechanisms to the control rods before the reactor is brought back up. Their names: John Burns, 22, an Army specialist. Richard Legg, 26, a Navy Seabee, the shift supervisor. Richard McKinley, 27, an Army specialist, in training. To reconnect the central rod, a man has to lift it by hand, about 4 inches. Only 4. The clock keeps running. That night, the rod does not rise 4 inches. It rises about 20. Far past any safe limit. From the marks left on the metal, some estimates run higher still, as much as 26 inches. Far less would have been enough. Why the rod comes out that far is never established, and never will be. There are no witnesses, all 3 men will die, the logs say nothing. The leading theory holds that Burns is lifting it. That is the investigation's best account, not a proven fact. No one blames these men for what the record cannot show. The rod goes up. The countdown reaches 0. In 4 milliseconds, the reactor goes prompt critical. The power surges to around 20 gigawatts, thousands of times its rated output, in less time than it takes to blink. The water around the core flashes to steam. This is not a nuclear explosion. Not a bomb. It is a steam explosion, a hammer blow of water and vapor, the force of perhaps 30 kilograms of high explosive. The entire reactor vessel, tons of steel, leaps about 9 feet into the air. In an instant, it is over. Above the core, in the reactor room, are 3 men. The rest of this is about the price. An alarm sounds, and the phone goes dead. Firemen and a duty crew drive out to the building. As they close in, their instruments climb. Outside the building, about 25 rentgen an hour. Inside, a detector on the floor pegs at 500 rentgen an hour, off its scale. 2 of the men are killed almost at once. Legg has been struck by the ejected shield plug and pinned to the ceiling above the core. It is stated here as fact, and left there. The 3rd man, McKinley, is found still alive, unconscious. Rescuers go in short rushes and carry him out. He dies in the ambulance, around 11:15, roughly 2 hours after the blast. The contaminated ambulance is driven out into the desert and left there. The bodies are intensely radioactive. Burns is recovered the same night. Legg, held against the ceiling, cannot be reached until the 9th of January, 6 days on. A team of 10 take him down, working 2 at a time, no longer than about 65 seconds each, with long hooks. In the rescue, 22 men take doses of 3 to 27 rentgen. The three are buried in lead coffins sealed in concrete. McKinley lies in Arlington. The most radioactive remains are buried apart, as radioactive waste. The contamination, in the end, stays mostly inside the building. The iodine that escapes drifts downwind, but is judged not significant. So far out in the desert, there is no widespread contamination of the land. The reactor itself is taken apart and buried where it stood. Around 475 people worked the cleanup. The investigation runs for more than a year. Its finding is a kind of silence. The exact cause would never be established. The best explanation is an accidental overwithdrawal of the central rod. The maintenance logs do not record what the men were trying to do, and so the last 4 milliseconds belong to no one. What SL-1 leaves behind is a rule. It remains the only reactor accident in American history to kill its operators. After it, American reactors are forbidden by design from ever reaching a state where pulling a single control rod could take the core critical. 32 of the people who answered that night received the Atomic Energy Commission's Award for Heroism. 7. The Carnegie Medal. Every reactor built since is safer because of what happened in that desert. John Burns. Richard Legg. Richard McKinley. The rule that keeps every reactor safe was written by the deaths of 3 men, on a winter night in Idaho.